Hey guys, welcome to yet another live stream on Balloon Head Productions. I'm your host. My name is Marcelo Inestrosa, and this evening I will be discussing Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2, Episode 6, entitled Lost in Translation. But, as I often do with these reviews, I will not be talking about this episode by my lonesome. I would like to welcome back to the channel my friend PJ. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here. So, episode 7 is basically, episode 7 focuses in around Lieutenant Uhura, and she, for one reason or another, is hearing this phantom signal in her head, and she spends the entire episode trying to find the signal and where it's coming from, and let's say madness and interesting things occur while she's trying to figure out how the signal got in her head, why did it get in her head, and how to get it out of her head eventually. So, PJ, what did you think of that concept for this episode?
A familiar kind of Trekkian slash Twilight Zone concept where in one individual is experiencing a thing and there is no physical evidence of it of any kind that can be detected from the outside except for Dr. Mbenga thinking it's deuterium poisoning.
Mm-hmm.
So another reviewer pointed this out, so this is not my idea. If this was a TNG episode, this would be Troy's story. It's reminiscent of a season 7 episode with her where she, there's a ghost in the ship. There's like a dead body in the ship, and she has all these hallucinations. There's another episode. There's a few episodes it reminds me of that I can't quite put my finger on it, but it feels very familiar, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Celia Rose Gooding is very good. It's good to see her shine again in an episode. She was the focus in last season's episode 2. She's always good. They really shoehorning Kirk in here too.
Yeah, yeah.
This is the second time we see him, the canonical Kirk, because the first time was episode 3 at the end when on video messages him. And this is the first time he's on this ship and he's interacting with everybody and he meets Pike. Now, if you remember the episode The Menagerie Part 1, Kirk mentions that he met Pike, or he first met Pike, one of those, when he was promoted to fleet captain. And in this episode, he is promoted to fleet captain, so that gives the writers... no problem with that at all.
Nice
Perfect.
tie-in.
Good. And it's good to see Kirk there. He's a good Kirk. And I'm wondering, why are they bringing this guy in kind of shining in the spot that maybe, I don't know, Anson Mount as Pike should be? And, I guess, I don't know if Anson Mount, he had a kid or something, his schedule or something. And they said, well, we need the male lead who's as close to Pike as we can get. Hey, that Paul Wesley guy played Kirk.
Oh.
He's going to be in this season. Mild spoiler for the rest of it. At least one more time after this.
Okay.
I don't know if he's in the finale. I definitely know he's in episode 9 because the trailer for it came out.
I feel very, very, very. I have a very difficult relationship with the character of James C. Kirk being in this series at all, whether it's the canonical one or the non-canonical one, because when they introduced when the press statement came out that they were doing Kirk in season 2, I was like, what are you doing? Because my main concern was something that you kind of just brought up. I thought Kirk being in the show was going to take away from Anson Mount and the rest of the crew. But with that being said, even though I don't agree with the way that they're using him, I do like that they're kind of using him, but he's still kind of there in the background. He's not like all the way to the front. If you get my meaning.
Yeah, I don't mind. I like the chemistry that this Kirk has with Uhura. Their first meeting at the bar. It's so 21st century sometimes the way
People
these
talk.
characters in these shows talk. They always sound so contemporary. So like if you watch it 10 and 20 years later,
It's not gonna sound
it
right.
sounds dated. But like this whole thing where Kirk, he just says something to Uhura, and she's like, "I don't want to be hit on." It's like, don't flatter yourself. I mean, not every guy who speaks to you is hitting on you. I mean, and he clearly wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
But I think maybe it could be like, she doesn't even know he's Kirk's brother. I don't think. I don't think she
No,
knows
and
who he is
also
at the very beginning.
no, and also you have to take into account that at this point, Aura is not having the best of times with things right now. She can't sleep. She has the voices in her head. So look, I'm not
I
look.
believe that, but I believe that bit is cheap because when she hallucinates and fights herself, and she actually hits him,
Right.
the joke is, "I swear I'm not hitting on you," ha ha, laugh. I'm like,
Right.
oh,
Right.
that's why you set it up. That's because it
Yeah.
felt forced of her. Like, I don't want to be hit on right now. I'm like, really? He's just talking to you. Like, come on now.
Yeah.
Uh,
Actually, you're right. That bit at the bar was a setup for the. For you're right. That tracks. You're right.
but her experience is interesting, and I like how Kirk he's the first officer on the Farragut now, so he's well respected by Pike, which is important at the end of the episode. Very,
Right.
very, because I heard one or two people kind of say, like all this stuff is in her head. There's no actual evidence of this, so they're blowing up this refinery. Granted, it's been evacuated on a whim, basically,
Right.
on instinct alone.
Hmm.
But at the end, it's Pike's look. He looks at Kirk as like, "Is this? Do you trust this? What's going on?" And Kirk, who having seen the evidence, and this is the better part of the episode, where like it may have been a little underwhelming for me, but at least it's a coherent story. Even though the ending, I know it's like, well, we can't detect these things. We don't even like. I wish there was something at the end where they found a way.
Right.
Like Spock
But
found a way to detect them. Therefore,
right. Right.
now
But
there's
yeah.
evidence to support the
Yeah.
blowing
But
up of
here's
the.
the refinery. But I do have a small retort to sort of give you maybe a latch of connective tissue. It seems that you're looking for. Remember that one officer that lost his mind?
Yes.
Isn't that kind of enough connective tissue to say to the other individuals that may be doubting that Ahura is seeing these? Isn't that like enough for them to possibly make a leap, or do you need a little bit more for that?
No, no, no. Kirk's investigation of that, and Palea and Number One are involved in discovering this guy at first.
Right, right, right.
But that's what. That's why he can give Pike the okay. Yes, blow it up,
Okay.
because they go through the process in the episode of him seeing the evidence. He's like, uh, he knew about it. He knew about the dude. Like, there was concerns about him, and then he lost his mind. Oh, now there's somebody on the Enterprise crew member losing her mind. The communications officer. Funny enough, and the whole thing about the aliens or the beings aren't intelligent, so all they can communicate to her are their feelings, basically, about what's going on, and it's death, despair, loss. So it does. It's not like to me. I think it was well done because it's not like the aliens are making the hallucinations, the specific hallucinations. They're not like going into the mind and saying, "Oh, this is a memory," and we're gonna. They're triggering traumatic memories from each person.
Right.
So the whole thing about a lot of characters having tragic backstories. Okay, yeah, Uhura has a tragic backstory now. We found that out in season one. This is putting it to good use, much like Riker, his tragic backstory with his son in season one felt very forced and unnecessary. It's just a way to connect it to the synth band, very convoluted. But then in season three, they make use of it. They're like, well, it's here, it's canon now. Let's do something with it that's interesting, and that's what this episode succeeded in. But it is like watching a kind of quasi remake of a few different things I've already seen. Entertaining enough, but
I mean,
nothing's gonna
yeah,
get to that episode 2 level this season. I was
yeah,
really looking forward to something like that, and it's not happened yet. So anyway,
yeah. I mean, look,
the
I thought,
sourpuss.
well, it's okay because there's a lot of people that have a lot of issues with episodes of Stranger World. So you're fine. Don't worry about that. I thought this episode was okay. The I did like the whole thing with Uhura hearing voices in her head and her going crazy and her and
Soundwave from
Kirk.
Transformers, by the way. That's the
Yeah,
voice.
yeah. Oh yeah, Soundwave.
Transformers.
Yeah, Soundwave.
Yeah, Soundwave.
Um, yeah. I just lost my thought. Damn.
Sorry, sorry,
Anyway,
sorry, sorry.
no, it's okay. That's okay. The only thing that I don't particularly like about this episode is the fact that you said it at the beginning of our conversation. I really feel that they're kind of shoehorning in Paul Wesley as Kirk when they don't have to. I did appreciate that they made that connection with TOS that he first met Pike when he got promoted to fleet captain. I did appreciate that, but I kind of felt that his role in this episode could have been played by somebody else on the ship, like Laan, for example.
Um,
Um, but the one thing I will say about Kirk being there, I really liked the sort of subplot thing that he had going on with his brother Sam, about how Sam was really jealous of Jim's success within Starfleet, and how Sam felt that his Sam felt that their father was more proud of Jim than he was of him. So I did like that whole brotherly rivalry that Sam seemed to have in his head for this entire episode. It's a really small piece of the storyline, but I found it to be quite entertaining.
uh, I don't know because I have, like you, I haven't looked at a lot of people's reactions and reviews and stuff.
Right.
But I can see people running into that, kind of like, okay, you've got Kirk here. Oh, and now he's bickering with his brother, and it's like this sibling rivalry bullshit, and
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of how I felt. I appreciated their interaction. I mean, if Kirk's gonna be walking around the Enterprise, it might as well have.
Sam there.
I would have appreciated it if it was less petty, because you have an imbalance in the episode with petty, immature conversations. One of which is going on the station between Pelia and Number One,
Yeah.
who we discover really don't get along. We know the reasons why. It's
Yeah, we
very
do.
petty and very
Mhm.
immature, and it's not funny. It's one. It's
No.
the worst part of the episode, and I like Pelia, and it's just
Yeah.
like, you're wasting her on this. Like, oh, you called me I've been called everything under the stars, but
Oh,
space
it's
hippie,
petty.
and it's like
It's petty.
space hippie. Like, who's like, stop this? I want the characters to be working together in harmony, and
Rather
in
than
that you
argue with
have an
each other.
interesting dynamic. And then they discover the dude, and then they were, that would have been fine. They have to create this forced drama and
Hmm.
pettiness. Same thing with Kirk and his brother Sam. It's like, I would have liked it more if they were just busting each other's chops. Throw some swearing in there for all I give a shit. But like,
Mm.
oh, big man, Number One on the Farragut now, and Kirk's like, yeah, that's right, and like, instead of like, oh, I'm sad and I have to get over this, and it's petty, and it's I don't think they've done Sam justice. Like, he's a semi useless character. Although at the end, when Spock gets annoyed that Sam didn't clean up after himself, it's a throwback to charades,
Yeah.
episode 5, and Spock's first interaction with Kirk is motivated by his annoyance for his brother.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I like that. Like, at the end, her Kirk and Spock are sitting down together for the first time.
That's
That
cool.
I totally buy into that stuff because I don't dislike the new Kirk dude. I kind of
Hmm.
dislike what they're doing with Spock. I think
Yeah.
the comedy
Um.
with Spock is all over the place, but we'll get to that
Yeah.
later.
Um. Um. I really like. You brought up Pelia number one's story thing. I really didn't care for their storyline in this episode. I personally don't like Pelia. I think she's a waste. I don't. I'm like just. I don't care. So I'm just waiting for like maybe in a couple seasons for Scotty to show up.
She has a
Because I don't.
she has a much better moment in the next episode. Sorry to cut you off. We won't get to that,
That's
but
a,
the next
yeah.
episode she has a
Yeah.
good
Well.
moment. But
Yeah.
yeah, she's kind of wasted, isn't she?
Yeah. Yeah. She's
It's like,
very
what are they
like
doing
I
with
don't.
her?
Yeah. I don't. Like I said, I don't. I don't like her as a character. Nothing against the actress who plays her, but I'm like, whatever. I don't care. Um,
You
as
hate the
far
actor,
as
don't you?
no, I don't. I don't even. I don't even know who the actor is. Um, as you know, as far as their conversation being petty, I kind of didn't see that, but I thought that number one's whole reasoning for the way that she was acting around Pelia was because she felt mad that Pelia was there and Hemmer wasn't. The Hemmer thing was like, oh, you could have. Oh, you know what? I felt really bad for this
It was
actor
very mature.
who
Like,
yeah
yeah,
who
okay, the guy died. How
yeah
has that anything to do with Pelia? And
nothing.
the whole thing about like, oh, Una's mad because she gave her a C when she deserved an A. And
Yeah.
it's like, what the who are this is not this is unbecoming of a Starfleet officer, and there's more of this in season 2 that really annoyed. This is one of where it's like the characters are very competent and serious in some episodes,
And they're
and
dumb
like
in the other ones.
investigative, and they know what they're at, and then in other instances when they have to be idiots for like the sake of forced drama
Story.
or forced comedy, and it's like no, this is inconsistent in tone and
Yeah,
writing.
I mean, yeah, I
How can
mean,
it be
look,
good and bad? Like who? Like where does that mix come from? Do you notice? I just want to say one more thing. Do you notice the odd number episodes are slightly goofier than the even numbered
um,
episodes? The even number 2, 4, and 6
uh huh.
are more serious. 1, 3, and
Maybe,
5 and 7 are more lighthearted.
maybe, maybe the Strange New Worlds writers, for some whacked out reason, decided to do that. Maybe they decided to do a mixture episode. Like they said, okay, we're gonna do some serious and then some kind of wackadoo crazy. But like you said, sometimes the wackadoo crazy that they doesn't make sense and it's not consistent with the fact that these people are trained Starfleet officers and they shouldn't be acting like this. Um, I like I said earlier, I thought this episode was fine. I didn't think it reinvented the wheel. It was just fine to me.
Hmm.
And to you, it was kind of like middle of the road, or
Yeah, a decent episode. It's just doesn't. It's since episode 2, there hasn't been an episode that's hit on like
okay
all
for
fronts.
you.
Like, there's
For
always
you.
a scene or moments that like really bring it down. Like whenever I watch the second time, whenever they cut to Pelia and Una bickering, I'm just like, this is like
Yeah.
just noise. It just doesn't. I'm just waiting for it to be over, or I should just skip it. It's like I don't want to do that in episodes. I don't want to be annoyed by a part of it or parts of it. But
Okay.
like I said, Celia Rose Gooding, Paul Wesley, even Pike, are good. Other crew members don't get exactly a chance to shine. Bruce Horak, bringing him back and having that memory of him and be integral to her,
Plot.
the plot. Was good. He gets to be zombified, and then I like the visual thing at the end when
With
they
the
blow up
nod.
the station and she gets visual confirmation that the aliens are all good by seeing Hemmer
Yeah.
like healthy and stuff. But again, I would have liked The end is just like that happened. Do.
That happened to
Let's have the
that
bar
hap-
scene. Let's have the bar scene with Spy and horror, and then
yeah,
that's it. There's no mention
yeah.
of like, hey, I know a lot of outrageous things happen. They just kind of skip over like the paperwork.
The
So-
paperwork. you
but it's just like,
I
okay, you said you can't detect these things. You don't even know that this like from an evidence based perspective, they don't know that this has happened. They're just going on the evidence of
yeah.
the poor guy who got killed. By the way, forgot to mention that.
Mm. No,
That
but
scene was good. I like
yeah,
that.
no, but I do wanna go off a point that you just made. The paperwork, right? Like like how come we didn't see Pike talking to Starfleet going, guys, just so
Uh,
you know, I had to blow up a fucking refinery because they were like ghosts. I'm like,
Even a conversation with Admiral April
yeah,
over
yeah,
over
that'd be
over
good.
subspace or something, where he's like, "Chris, you blew up the refinery," like with no absolute. What evidence can you show? It's like, well, we have no way of knowing if they're there or not, and the
Yeah,
deuterium. But two people went crazy, so there you go.
I
And
did it.
Kirk said it was cool because he investigated, and it's fine. It's fine.
It's
I'm not.
fine.
It's not a big deal to me narratively. It's like whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
It was real.
No,
The audience knows what she experienced was real, and that there were aliens, and they were being killed, and then now they're good.
right.
But it reminds me of
Um,
that TNG episode. I think it was also a season 7 one about the warp aliens. The warp fields were making the aliens sick,
oh, okay.
and they had to tell Geordi like, "Hey, your
Warp
warp
bubble.
drive is fucking toxic to us." It's like, oh,
Interesting.
we got to reduce emission. It's basically like a reduce emissions kind of allegory or something.
Right, right, right.
Like you're
So
polluting
yeah,
space.
yeah. I mean, again, this episode was fine. The next episode that we're going to talk about tomorrow on my channel is much better. So, um,
Do you think they're doing a
yeah,
backdoor pilot with Kirk?
I hope
That's why
not.
that's because what they did in Discovery season 2,
Yeah,
or
but I
season
hope
1, they
not.
said we're not going to bring in Spock and Pike.
You know
Season
why?
2, we brought in Spock and Pike. You
You
like
know why?
Spock and Pike? Boom, TV show. People are going to be saying we like this Kirk. We like this Kirk.
Okay,
A
okay,
Farragut set centered series.
okay. But see, there you go.
He's the
If they're
first
gonna
officer.
if they're gonna do young Kirk, I would like them to do a Farragut series. I'm not opposed to them doing. And see, this is where I get killed by everyone. I'm not opposed to them doing a series with Kirk aboard the Enterprise, but if they're gonna do that, I would rather have them do a Farragut TV series first, run Strange New Worlds to the end, and then bring Paul Wesley back to do like a mini series of his first, you know, year on the Enterprise, like a 10 episode miniseries, and that's it.
And why they may have like a backdoor kind of pilot deal in the back of their minds as
They're
producers.
not, yeah,
The ground is very shaky right now.
yeah, it is.
It won't be in like, it may not be maybe at the most 3 years until we get Strange New World season 3, depending
Yeah,
on how long
the right
these
strike.
strikes last.
Yeah,
And this whole deal about like a Section 31 series, which we've been hearing about
a movie actually.
since 2017, 18.
Yeah, no,
For
2017, I think.
5 6 years we've been hearing about this Section 31 deal with Michelle Yeoh. It finally gets like officially
A
approved
movie,
as a movie,
yeah,
and now it is like, who knows if that's ever going to happen.
yeah.
Plus
It's
everything else.
yeah. If I'm not mistaken, I mean, with the strike resolve for SAG and the writers, the Section 31 movie is supposed to start shooting in October. But that is if the strikes are resolved, because if the strikes are not resolved, nothing is happening in October. Um, so we'll have to see where that goes. But PJ, if the good folks at home want to catch up with you and all your adventures online, will be the best place for them to do that on.
You can find me on X, the app formerly known as Twitter,
Yeah.
at BoatWreck1, or on YouTube at BoatWreck or PJ's channel.
Yeah.
PJ's channel.
PJ's channel. No, guys, if you guys like Star Trek watch alongs, uh, PJ does a bunch of those. He did a bunch of those for one of my favorite Star Trek series, D Space Nine. He did a bunch of those on his channel. They're great. Go check them out. But if you want to catch up with me and my adventures online, um, you can also catch me on the website formerly known as Twitter, now X, at um, at oh Jesus Christ, I forgot at Crick Fanatic 88. There you go. But once again, I would like to thank you, PJ, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right. All right, guys. So that'll do it for this live stream edition of um, Balloon Head Productions. So, as I say often, until next time, I'll see you when I see you.
So much happened here, and so much is about to.